No alarms. No drama. Just a quiet decision, mutual, they said, between the Miami Dolphins and Jalen Ramsey. A simple statement on the surface. They're exploring trade options. But what does that even mean when your top cornerback, a name like his, a presence like his, is suddenly on the table? There's something about timing. Something about the draft being just around the corner that makes this feel less like a plan and more like a reaction. Like something broke. Like something soured. Because nobody wakes up days before the most important offseason moment and just casually decides it's time to part ways with a guy they extended not long ago through 2028. You don't make that kind of move unless something deeper's brewing. Let's rewind. Jalen Ramsey came into Miami as a cornerstone. The kind of player you build around. Experienced, electric, vocal. A defender who changes how offenses operate. He's the kind of presence that forces quarterbacks to think twice. That shifts the game before the ball is even snapped. So when the Dolphins locked him in with a 3-year extension, it was more than a move, it was a message. They were in. All in. And now we're here. With numbers and deadlines. With reminders that $25.1 million in guaranteed money needs to be addressed. With a quiet note that Miami already paid $4 million of that, and the rest, $21.1 million, would need to come from whoever takes him. A price tag like that doesn't travel easily. It doesn't just hop teams like it's nothing. It carries weight. It slows deals. It complicates everything. So again, why now? Why not last season, or after the playoffs? Why wait until the 11th hour, with the draft looming, the roster uncertain, and the pressure starting to bubble? Could it be performance? Sure. He's not the same dominant force from a few years ago. Maybe the step isn't quite as quick. Maybe the coverage isn't as suffocating. But even if he's not at his absolute peak, Ramsey is still one of the best cornerbacks in the league. That's not debatable. And letting him go now, at this point, it doesn't exactly scream, we're confident in our depth. It screams something else entirely. Maybe this isn't about football. Not entirely. There's always more. Always something underneath. The kind of tension that doesn't show up on stat sheets. The kind of conversations that happen behind closed doors, between coaches, execs, players who've had enough. Because mutual decisions don't just happen overnight. They build up. Maybe it's friction. Maybe it's burnout. Maybe it's Ramsey looking around and realizing this team isn't where he thought it'd be. Maybe it's something, or someone, inside the building that pushed him away. Whispers have been flying. One name floating through the haze is Tyreek Hill. Is it real? Is it noise? Nobody's saying. But people have noticed a vibe shift. A tension that wasn't there before. And when players like Ramsey start looking for exits, it's rarely just about money or performance. It's usually personal. So here we are, with a defense that already needed help now facing a gaping hole. Miami's secondary was built around Ramsey's presence. You remove him, and the dominoes start to fall. The coverage schemes shift. The roles change. The pressure multiplies. Suddenly, you're not just looking for depth. You're desperate for a new identity on that side of the ball. And yeah, the draft's coming. Miami has 10 picks. But that doesn't guarantee anything. Especially not a shutdown corner in the mold of Jalen Ramsey. Especially not a rookie who's ready to take that role from day one. That kind of leap almost never works out. Not without growing pains. Not without scars. This puts Miami in a tight spot. Because the plan, the real plan, was to fix the trenches. To finally get the offensive line right. To protect Tua. To give him the stability this offense has lacked for years. But now you might need to use that capital to patch up a new wound. A wound you created. So what's the play here? Trade Ramsey now, and you might get a decent haul. Draft picks. Maybe a player. Maybe something that helps balance the roster short-term. But you also lose leadership. You lose that edge. That fire. That little bit of swagger that Ramsey brings. Even when he's not talking. It's there in how he carries himself. You can't replace that with stats or schemes. And yet, maybe this is the point. Maybe Miami's finally ready to rip it all down again. Maybe this is the quiet start of another rebuild. Not a full-blown fire sale, but a reset. A shift away from the all-in mentality that brought big names, but no deep playoff runs. Maybe they've looked at the roster, at the cap, at the window, and realized it's not going to happen this way. Not with this core. If that's true, then Ramsey's exit is just the beginning. A sign that things are changing. A sign that what we saw last season, the cracks, the underwhelming finishes, the sense that this team couldn't quite get over the hump, wasn't a blip. It was a preview. And if that's the case, then it makes sense to move him now, while his value's still high, before another year chips away at the shine. But then there's the other side. Ramsey himself,